The official recording of today's workshop will be available in two ways for you to access. First of all, you would be able to see it through a link shared in our Google Drive. You know that we share all the collateral related to our trainings and workshops in a dedicated Google Drive folder. Normally in 24 hours after the event has ended, we have uploaded the recording, and we have also linked the different presentations that have been shared throughout the duration of our usually 2-hour standard duration training or workshop. The difference between the trainings and the workshops is related purely to the scope that we cover. In the first 4 training sessions that we held from September until December 2025, we covered, broadly speaking, what the Cyber Resilience Act means for you as representatives of small and medium enterprises across Europe, but also the subject matter expertise behind the CRA. We were discussing things like certification related to the different standards that are applicable to the CRA. We were discussing the key areas of the Act. And now in the workshop sessions, we moved the discussion towards a bit more practical, technical side of the story. So how not to just create a general understanding and awareness around what the CRA is and what it means for you, but also how to actually prove compliance, most of you through self-compliance assessment and procedures that you need to follow in order to document risks, incidents, the containings of your different products with digital element, but also today going into vulnerability management. And of course, we also touch on the related standards and certification methods. And especially for those that you are going to undergo conformity assessment through a accredited assessment body, 𝗪, then you need to also fill in the right paperwork for that purpose to document everything that is needed for such a conformity assessment body audit. Therefore, we are discussing also these practicalities around documentation of the different vulnerabilities, incidents, risks related to your products. But by disclosing these details that are being shared by our trainers, who are long-time auditors, leading auditors in the field of cybersecurity, we are also showing you what exactly is going to be done through the OSCRAT platform. So how this platform is going to empower, to enable, to facilitate your self-compliance or internal compliance assessment process, procedures. We have not yet done what we wanted to do in advance, a bit more practical hands-on sessions, simply because the development of our platform, the OSCRAT platform, which stands for Open Source Tools for Cyber Resilience Act Compliance, was delayed with a few weeks, if not months, compared to what we initially foresaw. But I'm very satisfied that right now we have an official beta release, and I will be sharing a link for you to basically have a look. I will share this link a bit later, so I do not distract you from the main lectures of the day. We would be happy, as always, to receive your feedback. I have multiple times asked for such feedback related to our trainings. We have indeed a feedback form that you can fill in previous months, monthly editions of these trainings and workshop sessions. I have asked also about feedback for what our OSCRAT platform should actually contain. Now that we are more advanced, now that we are in a beta release state, the feedback that we would be looking forward to is actually if you see any loose ends around the offering. If, for example, when you go through the user journey to the user flows related to recording your risks, the risk related to your products with digital components, whether undergoing through registration of different vulnerabilities or to the development of a software bill of materials, you see something that needs to be changed. It can be from the perspective of you as a user, purely UX, UI feedback. It can be more in-depth, something that you would like to actually change in order to do the registration or validation process better, smarter, more automated. So we would be looking forward to this. But we have left this practical final hands-on session for April 27th, where we will go through the different flows related to the different functions of our platform. Until then, it's the third workshop that we'll be holding today, which would be, I would not say more theoretical, but definitely a workshop based on explaining you the state of art, in particular around vulnerability management. As previously we spoke about incident management, and in January we also discussed what needs to be documented and how it can be documented on the OSCRAT platform related to the general registration, reporting of the key areas that are related to the CRA on our OSCRAT platform. From the moment that you create an account, create a registration of your company and the associated products with digital components that you're going to be tracking through the OSCRAT tools and solutions that we are developing. Now, the OS, as I already mentioned, stands for open source. Don't worry about that. So far I'm speaking about how we're going to open something, how we have achieved whether alpha or beta release. That is normal. The approach that we have decided to implement is the following. We want to reach a stable release before we open source our code and ask people to join us in developing further the functionality of the platform. Why is that so? Why is the chosen approach to open source something that is in a stable version? Because we are aiming not only to help your compliance journey, but also to be compliant ourselves. So we want to make sure that we nail it from the first moment, that everything that the CRA requires in terms of self-reporting, self-assessment can be done in a compliant way with the functions that are available in this stable release. And going from there, when we open source, of course, we would be welcoming additional features that can be upscaling, building the functionality further, improving the UI, the UX. But this would be, I would say, the things we would be aiming, we will be able to try to achieve in the next 6, 12 to even 18 months. So far, we are aiming to nail a compliant platform enabling your compliance journey. For this to happen, as I already said, we rely on experts. Today with us, as usual, is Dr. 𝗵𝗱𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀. Dr. 𝗵𝗱𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 is part of the training team from day one. One of these leading cybersecurity auditors that is explaining the content, the subject matter expertise related to the CRA from September 25th onward. With him is Sashka Boncheva and Yasen Tanev. Sashka is part of the team behind the Women for Cyber Foundation in Bulgaria, one of the founders of the foundation, its Bulgarian branch. And also Yasen Tanev, who is a member of the training pool coming on the side of the Digital Innovation Hub Trakia. similar to 𝗪multi and similar to 𝗵𝗂. Of course, all of them hold numerous hats, I would say. So, for example, Dr. 𝗪µ𝗹𝗪𝗀 is also the founder and chairman of the Bulgarian AI Institute. So he's available for you to have discussions around automation, flows, and opportunities. We do not have this as a core aspect of our beta release of the OSCRAT system, but going forward, we will definitely be aiming to enable and empower the compliance journey with the help of artificial intelligence functionality. So far, we have this as, I would say, something in the pipeline ahead in the span of 12 to 18 months that I'm sharing about. But his broader engagement with compliance beyond CRA, I mentioned AI, so I need to emphasize the AI Act. Also, Yasen Tanev's broader engagement with cybersecurity training. Therefore, his knowledge and understanding on the cybersecurity certification framework under the EU Cybersecurity Act is of great help for the participants in our trainings and the webinars, because you will see that the subject goes beyond the core CRA topics. We cover standards that are not necessarily touched under or within the CRA, but standards that you need to have good comprehension, good understanding in order to achieve broader compliance. As an example, we are also covering standards under NIST, the US cybersecurity compliance framework that is basically being developed by the National Institute for Standardization in Technology over there. And of course, they are contributing with, as I mentioned already, their broader experience and expertise. Finally, on my end, before giving the floor to 𝗵𝗂, because I can see that he has already shared the first slide of the vulnerability handling journey that we're going to cover today, I need to say a few words about myself, right? For those of you that are joining for first time, my name is 𝗪ci𝗿𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀😂. I'm generally the host of these training sessions, while I'm contributing with as a representative of the Digital Innovation Hub Trachea is a general presentation and awareness raising on the OSCRAT project, which goes beyond actually building the platform. So what I can do now, in order not to delay the process of presenting the core subject matter expertise of the day, is to share the link towards the OSCRAT project in the chat window. You can see more details on this project. The only thing I am legally obliged to disclose, to share, is that while our project is co-funded by the European Union through calls managed, coordinated by the European Cybersecurity Competence Center, and generally with funding from Digital Europe program, we are not speaking on behalf of the European Commission. So all the different theses, statements, expert analysis that we are sharing with you over this window of 120 minutes on a monthly basis are our thoughts of ourselves as subject matter experts representing the project partners, of course. I already mentioned that most of our trainers and me, myself, we are part of the Digital Innovation Hub Trachea, which is part of a broader family of 150 such European digital innovation hubs, which are supporting SMEs with free access to tooling, to consultancy, innovation support, different innovation-oriented technical facilities, Each hub has its own specialized and expertise. Ours is cybersecurity. But if you're interested in benefiting from the free servicing provided by these hubs, which comprise generally of university members, business unions, different research institutes, and companies with subject matter expertise, you can simply visit the European Digital Innovation Hub network website. It will be the first result in Google when you Google it. But we are not the only, obviously, consortium member, and definitely not the most important one. We have our coordinators from PMF Research from Italy. So any questions and comments, if you seek for support from the OSCRAT.eu website and you mail us at contact, will be routed towards PMF Research, and they will take care to support you further. We also have coming from the technology business world, two partners from Romania, 𝗪𝗓𝗀, which are focused in the field of, again, cybersecurity compliance, seasoned consultants in the area of compliance, but also OVS Enterprise, also from Romania, who are actually the software development arm behind the OSCRAT platform and its CRA enablement functionalities. We have 𝗪𝗂𝗹𝗀𝗀 from Poland, who recently renamed on the 𝗪𝗂𝗋 Institute, who recently renamed and rebranded. So be careful to check in the project section on the OSCRAT.eu website be careful to look for them under their new logo and brand. And finally, we have Unisys. Unisys is a company based in Estonia. Their I would say a role and leading expertise in the project is related to designing the architecture of our CRA enablement platform called OSCRAT. They are the masterminds, I would say, behind the architecture of the platform and behind its functionality. With that, we can say that we can conclude the consortium membership. So we have colleagues from a governmental R&D center in Poland, colleagues from the business, from the software development world based in Romania. We have our coordinators from Italy, the Digital Innovation Hub Trachea based in Bulgaria, Unisys as also a private entity based in Estonia. But beyond this consortium, or pool of partners developing OSCRAT, we have other pool of key stakeholders that are available to your, I would say, attention and to your needs. This is the so-called Cyber Resilience Act cluster of projects. I just shared a link to the Cyber Resilience Act cluster page. This is a non-formal initiative managed by the cyberstand.eu project. It is a project supporting the people who are developing the different standards that are shaping the implementation of the CRA, but beyond supporting the people drafting the standards, they are also supporting the cooperation between OSCRAT as a EU-funded CRA enablement project and other such projects, 10 of them across Europe. You will see on the cyberstand.eu/CRA cluster page that I just shared the names of the different projects: Trust Boost, Octet, Confirmate, Curium, Secure, Cracovie, Cyberfront, CRY, 𝗪𝗪𝗀. All of them are aiming to support your CRA journey. We also have one particular among them that is providing even funding for companies such as yours to invest in cybersecurity and enable the successful self-conformity or self-compliance assessment and or external conformity assessment associated to your use cases if such external conformity assessment is applicable to your products with digital components. So have a look at them. We are covering multiple of your needs, but not all of them. For example, we have projects such as 𝗪𝗪𝗀𝗀 that can provide expertise and knowledge around pen testing, because penetration testing, whether in the format of a white, gray, or black penetration testing box, are very important to find critical vulnerabilities within your software stacks. So I'm mentioning this because we do not necessarily provide such expertise and functionality through the tools that we are launching now in beta release, but 𝗪𝗪𝗀𝗀𝗀 do so. So have a look at what they're sharing, have a look at their recordings, their webinars. Having said that, I'm happy that all our training materials are already online on OSCRAT.eu, not only in the Google Drive that I shared with you in the webinar chat, but also if you have not attended our previous webinars, don't worry about it. You can find the recordings available on YouTube and all the presentations linked on OSCRAT.eu. And similarly, many such materials are available to you on the websites of the other 10 CRA enablement projects funded by the European Commission. With that said, I have concluded my active participation in the beginning of today's webinar and workshop. I will be following up only at the end of today's session with some important announcements to make. But now it's time for core subject matter expertise to be shared by 𝗪ощ and his colleagues, especially around vulnerability handling. If it's a bit more technical for you, you can always keep this as an information, share the content with your technical experts. If on the other side you're a bit more, I would say you have a bit more technical profile, and this today's session sounds a bit more plain to you, then keep in mind that we have tried to make it more welcoming to the broader set of audience. But do not worry, we have content to share additional, more technical oriented in the useful materials section of our Google Drive repository. So just make sure to stick around, check back to our repository in a few days' time, and see if we have responded to your needs and have satisfied them with the right content for the right job role that you are having, from a senior leadership position to testing a manual or automated tester. It doesn't matter. If your product with digital component needs to undergo assessment against the Cyber Resilience Act, or you simply need to understand more in order to understand better the relationships going forward within your value chain, you are on the right place and with the right people. Any questions that you may have and have not yet been answered, I will be answering on the go. So I'm now giving the word to 𝗪ощ, but I'm also starting with answering the questions that are actually already pouring in the chat window. I will be doing this asynchronously, which means that I will simply be providing my feedback while 𝗪ощ is taking care to share the general content from today's webinar. If something is very important to be shared with the overall broader audience, I will make sure to use the opportunity to share some of the questions and some of the answers at the end of the session. Miro, the floor is yours. Thanks to everyone for your attention. Bye from now from me, but keep in mind to be on the spot within the next 90 minutes, because the most important is yet to come.
Thank you, Christian. That shortly introduced me, our colleagues, and OSCRAT project and system. Good day, everyone, and welcome to today's session on vulnerability handling. In the modern digital environment, vulnerabilities are not a question of if, but when. Every system, every application, and every organization faces constant exposure to new risks. What really matters is how we manage these vulnerabilities in a structured and effective way. Today, we will focus on the full life cycle of vulnerability handling. We will look at how vulnerabilities are identified, how they are analyzed, how decisions are made, and how they are resolved in practice. This is not only a technical process, but also a governance and compliance challenge. We will also connect theory with practice. We will see how frameworks, standards, and tools like OSCRAT helps organizations move from reactive action to proactive and controlled processes. By the end of this session, we will have a clear understanding of how to build a consistent approach to vulnerability handling aligned with modern cybersecurity and regulatory expectations. Let's begin. Let me briefly introduce myself before we continue. My name is 𝗵𝗱𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗶 and I am lead auditor for management systems with a focus on information security, artificial intelligence, IT services, and quality management. I have more than 10 years of experience in auditing organizations across different sectors, helping them align with international standards and improve their security and resilience. I have been working with standards in information and cybersecurity for over 20 years, which gives me both a practical and a strategic perspective on how these frameworks are applied in real environments. At the same time, I have more than 15 years of experience in academia. I'm assistant professor in 𝗪𝗏𝗏 in Sofia, where I teach cybersecurity standards, cybersecurity management, cryptography, and zero trust architectures. In addition, I'm chairman of the Institute of Artificial Intelligence and deputy manager of the Bulgarian Union of standardizers, and I actively participate in European and national cybersecurity projects. In this workshop, I will combine this experience to give you both practical insights and structured understanding of vulnerability handling. Let me briefly walk you through what we will cover today in this workshop. We will start with the first session, where we focused on the Cyber Resilience Act and SBOM in practice. The goal here is to understand the regulatory perspective and why transparency in the software supply chain is becoming critical. You will see how SBOM helps organizations know what they actually use and where potential risk may come from. Then in session 2, we move to a live demonstration of the OSCRAT workflow. This is the practical core of the workshop. We will go through the full process step by step, from vulnerability scanning and identification to tracking, management, and reporting. The idea is to show how this concept work in a real environment. Finally, in session 3, we will step back and look at the bigger picture. We will review the key standards and frameworks such as ISO, NIST, ENISA, and OWASP, and explain how they support a structured and consistent approach to vulnerability management. By the end of the workshop, we will have both practical experience and a clear understanding of how everything connects. So We will start with first session, the Cyber Resilience Act and SBOM in practice. In this session, we will explore how new European regulations are changing the way we build, manage, and secure software products. We will also see how these rules connect to the real technical practices, especially in DevSecOps. Let's explain again what Cyber Resilience Act is. A CRA is a European regulation that focuses on improving cybersecurity for products with digital elements. This includes software, hardware, and connected systems. The goal is to make these products more secure not only at the beginning, but during their entire life cycle. In another way, SBOM stands for Software Bill of Materials. This is a structured list of all software components inside the product. You can think of it like a list of ingredients in food. Just as you want to know what is inside your food, organizations now need to know what is inside their software. The suitable say from regulatory mandates to DevSecOps operations. This is very important. It means that Cyber Resilience Act is not only a legal requirement, it directly affects how developers, security teams, and operations teams work every day. For example, imagine a company builds a mobile app using many open source libraries. If one library has a vulnerability, the company must know about it quickly and fix it. Without an SBOM, this becomes very difficult. With an SBOM, the company can immediately see where the problem is. At the bottom of this slide, we see three key elements. First, the regulation itself, Cyber Resilience Act. Second, the scope, which includes products with digital elements. And third, the framework, which focuses on the security lifecycle and vulnerability management. This is the core idea for the Cyber Resilience Act. The main message is that there is a permanent shift in how manufacturers are responsible for security. In the past, security was often treated as something that happens after the product is released, as I said. Companies would fix problems only when users reported them. But now, the Cyber Resilience Act changes this completely. Security becomes a legal obligation during the entire life cycle of the product. I can show this idea using three main pillars. These pillars form the foundation of CRA compliance, and together they create a continuous process, not one time actively. The first pillar is security by design. This means that security must be built into the products from the very beginning. The product should not have known vulnerabilities when it's released. It should also use secure default settings, so users are protected even if they don't change anything. In addition, data should be protected and minimized, meaning we only collect what is really needed. The second pillar is vulnerability handling. This is about what happens after the product is released. Companies must regularly test their products for security issues. They must provide security update when needed, and they must follow a process called coordinated vulnerability disclosure. This means working in a structured way with security researchers and users when vulnerabilities are found. For example, if a researcher discovers a serious bug in a smart device, the company should not ignore it. Instead, they must fix it quickly and communicate clearly about the issue. The third pillar is transparency and traceability. This is where SBOM becomes very important. Companies must know exactly what components are inside their software. This transparency helps them react quickly when a problem appears in a specific library or a dependency. Now, the arrows between the pillars show that these areas are connected. Security starts with design, continues with monitoring and updates, and is supported by clear visibility of components. On the bottom, we can see the idea of continuous lifecycle operations. This means that security is not a one-time task. It's an ongoing process that continues in the product is in use. This reflects a key idea from Cyber Resilience Act. Organizations must prove that they have a working and continuous vulnerability management process, not just good intention. Now we will focus on the timeline of the Cyber Resilience Act and what it means for organization in practice. The first important date is June 2026. At this point, the institutional infrastructure becomes active. This includes notified bodies, which are organizations that support certification and compliance processes. This stage prepares the system, but it does not yet require full action from manufacturer. The second and most critical date is September 2026. This is when reporting obligations go live. From this moment, companies must report actively exploited vulnerabilities and serious incidents. These reports must be sent through the ENISA platform. This is a major operational change because organization needs to react very quickly. For example, if a company discovered that a vulnerability in its product is being actively used by attackers, it cannot wait. It must report this within a very short time and start remediation immediately. The final date is December 2027. This is when the Cyber Resilience Act becomes fully applicable. At this stage, all requirements are legally enforced across the European Union. However, the most important message is at the bottom of this slide. It says that operational readiness cannot wait until 2027. Companies must already have working processes by September 2026. This includes incident reporting, vulnerability management, and SBOM capabilities. Now, let's look at how is responsible under the Cyber Resilience Act. This is very important because the regulation does not apply only to one type of organization. It defines several roles, and each role has specific responsibilities. At the center, we see the manufacturer. This is the main responsible party. The manufacturer is the organization that places a product on the market under its own name or brand. This applies even if the product is free or monetized in another way. So responsibility is not only about selling, but about ownership and control of the product. Around the manufacturer, there are other important roles. One of them is the importer. The importer must make sure that the product meets all requirements before it enters the European Union market. This includes checking that the necessary documentation is complete. Another role is the distributor. The distributor acts as a control point. If they see serious cybersecurity risk or missing compliance, they must stop the distribution on the product. This means responsibility is shared across the supply chain. Uh, we also see a special role called open source software stewards. These are organizations that support open source projects used in commercial products. They may also have certain obligation, especially when their software is widely used in business environments. In the center of this system is the product itself, which includes both hardware and software. This software that the CRA applies broadly to digital products, not only to traditional software application. The key idea here is that cybersecurity responsibility is distributed across the ecosystem, but the manufacturer remains the main accountable entity. This reflects the CRA principle that security must be managed across the entire supply chain, not only inside one organization. Now we move to one of the most important parts of the Cyber Resilience Act, which is Annex 1. This section defines the essential requirements that every product must meet. We can see that these requirements are divided into two parts. The first part focuses on the products at the moment it is released. And the second part focuses on what happens during its life cycle. In the first part, the idea is secure from the start. The product must not contain non-exploitable vulnerabilities when it is launched. It must also have secure default settings so users are protected without needing to configure anything. In addition, the product must protect data both in terms of integrity and confidentiality, and it should collect only the minimum amount of data needed. It should also be resilient to attacks such as those denial of service attacks. The second part is about continuous processes. Here, the CRA requires companies to actively manage vulnerabilities over time. This includes identifying components using SBOM, fixing vulnerabilities without delay, and providing security updates separately from future updates. For example, if a company releases a new feature, it should not delay a critical security fix just because it is waiting for the next version. Security updates must be delivered as soon as possible. Organizations must also perform regular security testing and follow a coordinated vulnerability disclosure process. This means they must be open and structured when dealing with reported vulnerabilities. So now we focus on a very practical requirement of the Cyber Resilience Act, which is the support period and how security update must be handled. The first important idea is the support duration. Manufacturers must define how long they will support their product. In most cases, this period must be at least 5 years, unless the product is expected to be used for a shorter time. This means that responsibility does not end after release. It continues for years. This support period defines how long the company must manage vulnerabilities, provide updates, and report incidents. In simple terms, if the product is supported, security is still the responsibility of the manufacturer. The next key idea is separation of concerns. Security updates must be delivered separately from future updates. This is very important because it allows faster response to risk. Companies should not delay a critical fix just because they are preparing a new version with extra features. We also see the role of automation. Products should support automatic updates by default. At the same time, users should have a clear option. This creates a balance between security and user control. Finally, there is the idea of cost and velocity. Security patches must be delivered without delay and free of charge during the support period. This ensures that all users can stay protected, not only those who can pay. Now we move from regulation to practice. The key questions here is how legal requirements are transformed into daily operational processes. At the center, we see what is called the vulnerability management engine. This represents a continuous cycle of activities that organizations must follow to stay compliant and secure. The process with identification, companies must know what it is inside their software. This is where SBOM plays a central role because it provides a clear inventory of components. After that comes assessment. Not every vulnerability has the same level of risk. Organizations must evaluate the impact using reliable identifiers and risk-based methods. Next is remediation. This means fixing the problem. Companies must develop, test, and realize security patches quickly without unnecessary delay. Then we have disclosure. Organizations must communicate clearly about vulnerabilities. This includes publishing security advisories and following coordinated disclosure practices. Finally, there is monitoring. These steps connect directly to regulatory requirements. Companies must be ready to report incidents within strict time frame, such as 24 or 72 hours. This part focuses on the role of SBOM as a key connection between technical system and regulatory requirements. A modern software product is not a single piece of code. It's built from many layers. At the top, we have proprietary code, which is developed by the company. Below that, there are open source libraries, and even deeper, there are operating system and runtime dependencies. All these elements together form the final application. The challenge is that vulnerabilities can exist in any of these layers. If a company does not know exactly what components are included, it cannot react quickly when a problem appears. This is where SBOM becomes essential. It creates a machine readable map of all components and their relationship. Instead of guessing, organizations have a clear and structured view of their software. For example, if a vulnerability is discovered in a widely used library like Log4j, components with an SBOM can quickly check if they are affected. Without it, they may spend days trying to understand their exposure. The slide also show dependency graph. This is not just a list, but a structure that show how components are connected. This allows better analysis and faster decision making. Here we compare two of the most widely used SBOM standards, 𝗪𝗂𝗪𝗀𝗀𝗃 and SPDX. The important point is that the Cyber Resilience Act does not require one specific standard. However, organizations must choose a format that supports their security and compliance needs. 𝗪𝗂𝗪𝗀𝗃 focuses strongly on security and supply chain visibility. It's designed to track dependencies very precisely and include support for vulnerability information and VX, which helps explain whether vulnerability is exploitable. SPDX, on the other hand, has a longer history and is widely used for license compliance and legal tracking. It provides a deep model of relationship between components, which is very useful for auditing and regulatory checks. When we look at vulnerability management, a 𝗪𝗂𝗪𝗀𝗃 has an advantage because it includes native support for vulnerability data. SPDX can also be used, but it often relies on external identifiers and additional tools. Both standards support machine-readable format like JSON, XML, which is essential for automation. In practice, the choice depends on the organization's priorities. If the focus is on the SecOps automation and fast vulnerability response, 𝗪𝗂𝗪𝗀𝗃 is often more practical. If the focus is on legal compliance and detailed documentation, SPDX can be very strong. This part explains what a good SBOM should look like in practice, especially when we want to meet the requirements of the Cyber Resilience Act. First, the SBOM must be machine readable. This means it should be in a structured format such as JSON or XML. A simple documents or text file is not enough because tools and system needs to process the data automatically. Next, we have dependency depth. It is not enough to list only the main components. The SBOM must also include deeper indirect dependencies. This is important because vulnerabilities often exist in these lower levels. If we do not see the full chain, we may miss critical risks. Another key element is metadata. Each SBOM must include clear information such as who created, when it was created, and details about each component. This includes name, version, and stable identifiers like PORL or CPE. These identifiers help connect to SBOM to vulnerability databases. There is also important principle called statelessness. The SBOM represents a specific version of the software at a specific moment. It sounds not change dynamically. If there is a new vulnerability information, it should be handled separately, for example, through VEX or security advisories. For example, if a new vulnerability is discovered, we don't change the SBOM itself. Instead, we link that information to the existing SBOM. This part shows how SBOM and security process are integrated into modern development pipelines. The process starts with a code commit. Developers write code and define dependencies. Then the build process compiles and packages the application. At this stage, SBOM generation must happen automatically. This is very important. The SBOM is created using tools inside the CI pipeline, not manually. This ensures that every version of the software has an accurate and up-to-date inventory. After that, the SBOM is validated. This means checking if it follow the required format and rules. These checks are often automated using policy as code. Next comes signing and attestation. These steps provides proof that the SBOM and the software has not been changed. It ensures integrity and trust. The artifact is then stored in a secure registry. This storage must be immutable, meaning it cannot be modified later. This is important for audits and traceability. Finally, the SBOM is used by security tools such as software composition analysis. These tools scan for vulnerabilities and support the vulnerability management process. This part introduces VEX, which stands for Vulnerability Exploitability Exchange. It's an important concept that improves how organizations handle vulnerabilities. We start with two inputs. On one side, we have the SBOM, which gives us strategic list of components. On the other side, we have vulnerability databases such as the CVE list, which provides dynamic information about known threats. The challenge is that not every vulnerability affects every product. Components may be present, but the vulnerability parts of the code may not be used. Without context, this can create many false alarms. Now, this is where VX adds value. VX provides machine-readable statement that explain whether a vulnerability is exploitable in a specific product. It can show that risk is not relevant or that it has already been mitigated. For example, a library may have a known vulnerability, but if the affected function is never used in the application, the real risk is very low. VX helps communicate this clearly. This part explains how incident reporting works under the Cyber Resilience Act, especially under Article 14. Everything starts with a trigger. This means either an actively exploited vulnerability or serious incident is dedicated. Once this happens, the organization must act quickly and follow a clear process. The first step is the early warning. This must be sent within 24 hours. The report goes to ENISA through the single reporting platform and to national authorities. This step is about speed, not full detail. Next comes the full notification within 24 hours. At this stage, the organization provides more complete information. This includes how the vulnerability is exploited, what systems are affected, and what actions are being taken. After that, the company must take remediation action. This means applying a security patch or another mitigation measure to reduce the risk. Finally, there are two types of final reports. If it is a vulnerability, the report must be completed within 40 days after the fix is available. If it is a serious incident, the deadline is 1 month after the initial notification. At the same time, organization must communicate with user. Affected user needs to be informed clearly and given instruction on how to protect themselves. This part gives a practical view of how organizations should prepare for the Cyber Resilience Act. Instead of focusing on concept, it shows concrete action, responsible teams, and deadlines. The first action is to define the support period and to clearly understand the role in the system. This is usually handled by products management and legal teams. They must decide how long products will be supported and who is responsible at each stage. The next step is to establish a coordinated vulnerability disclosure process. This includes creating a public policy and clear contact point, often through a security text file, for example. This is typically managed by security teams and communication specialists. A more technical task is the implementation of SBOM automation in CI/CD pipelines together with cryptography signing. This is the responsibility of engineering and DevSecOps teams. It ensures that security and transparency are built directly into the development process. Another key activity is preparing report procedures. Organizations must be ready to report incident quickly, so they need clear workflow tools and responsibilities. This is usually handled by security response teams and compliance functions. What is important here is that readiness is not only about technology. It requires coordination between legal, technical, and operational teams. Each action has a clear owner and a clear deadline, which helps organization move from planning to real execution. In this final part, we move beyond the idea of compliance and look at the big. The Cyber Resilience Act is not just about following rules or competing documentation. It represents a major shift in how software is designed, delivered, and maintained. Security is not longer optional or reactive. It becomes continuous, transparent, and built into the entire supply chain. What this means in practice is that organizations must think differently. They need to create systems where security is automated, where components are visible, and where risk can be managed quickly and efficiently. I want to highlight one important message. The time to act is now. The critical reporting obligation begins in September 2026, and organization must be ready before that. Waiting until the last moment is not a realistic option. The visual at the bottom show a connected global ecosystem. It reminds us that software is built from many sources and delivered across many systems. Trust depends on every part of this chain. Now, I'll give you the floor of my colleague Yasin Tanev for the next practical session. Yasin, are you here? Me?
Yeah, just give me a second to switch.
Okay.
While waiting for Yasin to turn on his camera, set up his mic, I'm just reminding you for the opportunity to raise questions. Zoom webinar is not the most interactive platform. It do not allow you to raise a hand. This particular instance that we are using Zoom webinars compared to the standard Zoom software. So at any moment, if you have questions, just bring them in the chat. If they require urgent response, I will make sure to kindly interrupt whether Yasin or Miroslav. If not, I will be responding them asynchronously in the backend. But please, we are open to your questions so that we can fine-tune further today's session towards your needs. Yasin, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Miroslav was explaining you in details about the CRA, the usability, how it works in basics, and what I'm going to show you is how to practicalize these things. We are going to send you more presentation that we're going to show here, because we have more to share with you. So not only the recording, but you're going to receive my presentation, including one which is following the line between the software bill of materials and the VEX and the actions. Let me share my screen now and show you what I prepared for you. Okay. Please, can you confirm that my screen is visible, Christian? I cannot hear you. Miro, Christian, you're muted, the both of you.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's visible, but if some
visible.
of you have a similar issue as mine with resolution, you can just you can click on the screen and use whether scroll or the plus or zoom minus sign to set up the proper zooming of Yasin's screen. So it's perfectly visible.
Okay, so when I was thinking how to create it, I was thinking it's going to be great if I can imagine a device which not exists, but sounds great. So I call it the Stardust. And this is a device which stays and monitors the atmosphere. And if there is stars falling, then it's calculates what is the change of the dust into the air created by this stars falling experience. And this device is going to get definitely into the Cyber Resilience Act because it's going to be smart and connected. And it's also vulnerable. So the question is how we are managing this process and be practical. I'm going to show you also after that how it looks at the bill of materials and the VEX for this device. But getting into the story, the problem that 𝗵Rοσław described is that your products are complex. In most cases, they look simple from outside, but when you track the dependencies are really building the issue, and this can be treated like the supply chain topic, but it's also a matter of the speed of developing the environment. So the modern product, definitely they're not single thing. There is a operation system, there are frameworks, protocols. It should scale, so you're connecting to the cloud, different system, different channels, different protocol. And if you just create the bill of materials and drop this bill of materials to a vulnerability scanner, then you're going to become really red. But it's not always like this, because what is important in the cybersecurity, and this is also pushing the CRA, is that we are looking to be cybersecure in the context of our device. So this is where it comes the real logic that you should not only know your vulnerabilities, but you should connect them to your context, and then you should do also the risk assessment, and you should start from the vulnerabilities which is with high risk and actively exploit outside. And this is my Stardust device as a concept. So it has a local REST API, which is the Flask, let's say, implemented inside from the Python. It has the firmware, which is operating system. There are some hardware in the sensors which are sensing the dust, but you also connected to the outside. So we have the MQTT as a data stream, and it's using the APIs, and also we're using this REST API Flask for internal purposes. And when you start to decompose, you're going to see that the reasonable way of doing from decomposing and defining the components to a threat management is first we're doing the inventory, which means what we have inside. Then we're running it against the CVE lists. So we're saying what is vulnerable. Then we're saying, okay, we can see what is vulnerable, but let's understand how our device works, and let's see if this is relevant to us. because you're going to see that based on the cases, some of the vulnerabilities are not exposed for outside, or they're only inside, and your logic of working is not giving access to the intruders to them, but you already patch your system. And then when you know exactly in your context what is the issue, then you're running the strategical actions, which means what to fix first. Because if we're assuming that you have unlimited resources and money and time, probably you don't need to go through the risk assessment and strategical actions. But when you're having this as a limitation, you should always consider that the CRA is pushing for actions, but with the risk priority first. And this is what is happening. You're dropping everything in the SBOM. Then with the VEX, you're doing the actually what matters. It's in the context of your deployment. And then when you're going to action, is you need to create this classical matrix that you're assessing the risk, and you say what risk you're accepting and who are exposing to this risk and vulnerabilities, and then you need to act. What Miro says, there are two different platforms, let's say standards for defining the software bill of materials. In our platform that we are doing into the OSCRAT, the Cyclone DX is the format, 1.5 is the version, and it's important to know because there is some dialect between the previous and this version. So you need to include everything inside, including the kernels, the protocols, the libraries, the open source frameworks. You need to describe the context. This is what Miro was explaining about the metadata. And in my Stardust component, what we're having, we have, as example, a Debian, which is a basic operating system because we're running on the Raspberry Pi. Then we have the sudo, which is managing the privileges, OpenSSL for encryption. We have the Flask, which is the local REST API. We're doing the Cloud API client communication with request, and Mosquito is using for MQTT. Also, we have some firmware which is related to the sensors. Don't forget them because they are also component with their logic and system. And again, just to highlight, the SBOM and the CVE didn't show your risk exposure. They're not equal to the true risk because the difference is what matters you is your context, your device, your specific. So you're going with the CVEs to know what probably can go wrong. Then you're seeing what is exploitable outside, which means you should have it with high priority, and you should understand how it works in the local context. Then you see, is it patched or not in your system? And then define the final context. And if everything is patched in your system, you don't need to consider it as a vulnerability of your solution. It can be inside, it can be masked, or it can be compensated. And if you run the CVE on my imaginary device, I'm going to have, normally it's a basic device, I'm going to have 5 critical and high vulnerabilities. So if this was the real scenario, it's going to be high pressure. But when you go over the understanding the context and assessing in your local context, then with the VEX, you're moving from just the ingredients to a healthy warning system, which tell you what is what and how it's going to be used and where you should focus. And this is the truth. This is the moment how your system will become more secure, because the criticals, they're going to triage, and then after they go to triage, you decide which you need to patch. And when you're ready to patch, you're patching them, but these that are not affecting your reality, like a false positive, you're feeling safe. So the security means understanding, and transparency means more understanding. And this is why the idea of the CRA is to have the full visibility of your components, because in this way, you're going to know what is really issue and what is something to be fixed and what is false positive and don't need to be fixed. And again, some examples with diagrams. So we have the Flask API, but it's really inside, it's not exposed outside. So the vulnerability is not reachable and not exposable. So it's green, no worries. The outbound calls, they can be fixed and somebody can put efforts on them, but keeping in mind that the the gateways are properly set up and walking the traffic with the policy, they can be says, okay, it's not critical to fix it now. But the things like the sudo and the mosquito, where you have a high exploitability, you need to fix them immediately. So from all these 5 reds, we are coming to 2 reds, which we need to focus immediately. It's the sudo and the mosquito topic. Then on the OpenSSL, we should verify it isn't really impacting us. And then the request and FOASC. With the request, we have a patch already deployed, and the FOASC is not affecting us. What you need to understand again is that we are adding to the base severity value of the on the CVSS a multiple additional modifiers. So we're having the deployment and exposure. It means, is it deployed and is it exposed outside? And then we have the VEX modifier. And if it's exploitable, is it triage, is it mitigate or not affected? We are giving the value. This means that a high risk, even not affected, is a risk that should be considered. So this is what we are giving you an idea to consider as a updated risk logic and risk scoring on the CVSS. And this is an example, typical scatter chatter visualization, where we have the exposure and the base security. So, you see up here, the FOASC is up in the corner. But when you pass over the VEX and you are doing reasonable assessment through your system, then it's becoming really green, which means that the proper understanding of your solution by yourself and your team really makes value and also saves money. Then again, the target SLAs, 7 days for the high risk, up to a month for the medium risk. The mitigation on the next release sprint, you're pushing them out, and to the low risk, just monitor them, no stress for them. From 5 CV signals that we have, we reduce them to 2 high risk, 1 medium, and 2 low risks. The process that Miro was explaining to you is decomposed to some small subcomponents, but this should be a non-stop issue, and this is why automation works, because if you're not doing automation, there is not going to be enough humans to track all your components, are they vulnerable or not. So this should be included into development life cycle. Again, the logic aligned, you should be secure engineering, then you should secure, then you should manage the risks, and then you should support in operations. This is job of everybody. So it's not only engineers. There is a place for different kind of personal roles. Documentation, it's good to go to dashboards, and this dashboard should give you the real information. It's like a CM, but on the BOM level, and vulnerability assessment. This is something that we're used to use it into the standard office environment, but now we're moving also to products. And a message that I believe is going to reach you, that the risk is not what the scanner finds, the risk is what matters in your environment. So you should understand the reality and should comply with it. What I want to show you in the next couple of minutes is first, I want to show you the how it looks like the bill of materials for my Stardust. So I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, so if you open the Stardust bill of materials, I'm going to open it into the Notepad++. So you're going to see how it looks like. We have the information, components, dependencies, everything written in a structured format. Then we are moving to show how it looks, the VEX file. and you have the components that you have, and then you have related to them issues and CVs. So what are the recommendations? This is automated scanning. And to be easy to do it and test yourself, there is a very interesting website, which is 𝗪𝗂𝗪𝗂𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗪𝗂.io. So you can come here and choose your file. So in this case, is I'm going to open it again. The Stardust biomaterials. Then I'm going to say apply settings, and then it's going to run the scanners. So here you're going to see what are the number of the vulnerabilities. And if you go down here, you can get really details package by package. So it's a very good tool to know it and to use it. Also, you can run it in a Docker, another solution which is interesting. We're not going to get in details now, but if you open and click it, this is the OWASP dependency track. You can run it, go for it. The installation is really simple. So one command, you're downloading the Docker compose file, then you're running the Docker up, and you're having the full system. It's you just need to wait enough, because the API, when it's updating, it's really take more than a couple of hours to be installed. And what we're going to talk the next days, so I'm going to show it to you. This is the platform that we were talking with Christian. We're going to get more into details, but just a teaser. You're having the organization inside. I have my product. I can take a look more in detail. So this is the first version of it. I'm pressing show more. Then I have these assessment documents and information which I was providing during my assessment. And then I'm having the compliance dashboard, something that we say it's important, some files that are supporting me and telling me what is related to the SBOM, which I have it here, and it's importable. So I can generate, I can load this file from the JSON, from the XML of the Cyclone, or I can generate it manually. Then I can run the scans. So we have a complete scans here. If you see, we have vulnerabilities. These vulnerabilities are seen here. Then if there is incident, you can register them, tasks, which you can use or unassign, and full logging of photos with your device. So come here the next time, and we're going to show you how to do your end-to-end management of your product with the OSCRAT platform. And you're going to be happy to see that what was talked and explained in theory, that you're using the multiple sources like the trackers, or that you're using the Cyclone scanners. Everything here is in one single place, so you can have your dashboards, and you can know where you and what's going on with your products and organizations. Okay, so this is from me, Christian. I think we are having 3 minutes, but more or less we are on time. Yes, what we're going next, Miro?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, so I finish with my part. I can get in details, but I believe this was important thing after the detailed, strong explanation of the regulation, to show that the things are able to be applicable and operational under than a half an hour. And this is what we're going to do with the OSCRAT. So all the mess and no time to read into a structured platform that can help you work and integrate with the other things. So, okay, so Miro, you're moving then?
Yeah. Thank you, Yasin, for the demonstration of the SBOM cycle through the OSCRAT platform. Now we are continuing with last session, and we will explore how organizations manage security vulnerabilities in a structured and effective way. A vulnerability is a weakness in a system, software, or process that can be used by attacker. This last session presents a strategic view. It connects different well-known ecosystems such as ISO standards, NIST guidelines, NIST recommendation, and OWASP practices. Each of these organizations provides guidelines, but they often focus on different areas. The goal here is to understand how they work together as one complete system. The image of this slide shows a key and gear. The key represents access and security, while the gear represents processes and continuous work. Vulnerability management is not one-time activity. It's a continuous cycle that includes identifying, analyzing, fixing, and monitoring vulnerabilities over time. So now we move from the general idea to a more structured view of vulnerability management. Here we see 6 key pillars that together builds a complete and effective process. The most important message is in the center. No single standard can cover everything. This means that organization cannot rely on only one frameworks. Instead, they need to combine several approaches to create a strong and resilient system. Let's look at the life cycle shown in the diagram. It starts with a secure design supported by ENISA. This means that security must be included from the very beginning, not added later. Then during development, tools like OWASP dependency check help identify risk in software components and the supply chain. Next, ISO 29000 focuses on how vulnerabilities are reported from outside the organization. This is important because many vulnerabilities are found by external researchers. After that, the standard ISO 30001 explain how organizations handle these vulnerabilities internally, including analysis and fixing. Then we move to ENISA coordinated vulnerabilities disclosure, which provides guidelines on communication and cooperation between all parties. Finally, NIST SP 840 focuses on patch management, ensuring that fixes are applied effectively in real systems. For example, if a vulnerability is discovered in a library, it may first be detected during development, then reported by an external researcher, handled internally, and finally fixed through the patch. All these pillars are connected. Together, they create a continuous and complete vulnerability management process. The main idea here is simple. Security should not be added at the end of development. It should be included from the very beginning when the system is first designed. ENISA promotes this approach to reduce vulnerabilities before they even appear. You can see 3 key principles. The first is attack surface minimization. This means that only necessary functions should be active in a system. If something is not needed, it should be disabled. This reduces the number of possible entry points for attackers. The second principle is secure recovery. Even with strong security, problems can still happen. That is why system must be able to recover quickly and safely after an incident. This includes clear steps to return to a secure state. The third principle is mandatory onboarding. Important security features such as multi-factor authentication should not be optional or hidden. They should be required during the initial setup, so users are protected from the start. All these principles are connected to the product lifecycle. Security must be integrated into every phase from design to operation. At the same time, risk management supports these activities by helping organizations identify and reduce potential threats. Now we move to the development phase and focus on software consumption analysis using OWASP dependency check as an example. Today, most applications are not built from scratch. They are assembled from many external components, libraries, and packages. This creates a serious challenge. If one of these components has a known vulnerability, the whole application can be at risk. The problem is that fixing these dependencies is not always simple. It often requires code changes and full testing to make sure everything is still work correctly. This can slow down development and create additional risks. The solution is automation. OWASP dependency checks is a tool that scans the software and identifies all dependencies. It then checks if any of them are linked to known vulnerabilities, also called CVEs. These vulnerabilities are usually stored in public databases such as the National Vulnerability Database. An important part of this process is integration into the development pipeline. The tool can be connected to systems like Maven, Gradle, or Jenkins. This means that every time the software is built, it is automatic for vulnerabilities. It is a serious issue. If a serious issue is found, the build can fail. Now, this acts as a quality gate and prevents insecure software from moving forward. Now we are going to the external side of vulnerability management. ISO 29147 standard focuses on how organizations communicate with external people who discover vulnerabilities. In many cases, vulnerabilities are not found by the organization itself, but by researchers, ethical hackers, or even users. This creates a need for a clear and safe communication process between the reporter and the vendor. The process starts with a secure channel. This means that the reporter must be able to send information safely without the risk of interception. For example, this can be done through secure web form or encrypted communication. Next, the organization must have a clear disclosure policy, also called a vulnerability disclosure policy. This policy explains how to report a vulnerability, what information is needed, and what the reporter can expect. It also often includes rules that protect the reporter when they act in good faith. After receiving the report, the organization analyzes the issue and prepare a response. Finally, it publishes a security advisory. This advisory informs user about the vulnerability, its severity, and how to fix it. Now we turn our attention inside the organization where vulnerabilities are handled and resolved. ISO 30001 describes the internal process that vendors use to manage vulnerabilities step by step. Everything begins with preparation. Organization needs dedicated team, often called PSIRT or SIRT, and clear procedures to tracking and managing vulnerabilities. Without this foundation, the process can become slow and unorganized. Next comes the receipt phase. Vulnerabilities can come from different sources, such as external researchers or from internal testing and audits. All reports must be collected in a structured way. After that, the organization moves to verification. This is where the reported issue is checked to confirm that it is a real vulnerability. The team also evaluates how serious is it and what impact it may have. Once the issue is confirmed, the remediation phase begins. This includes developing a fix, testing it carefully, and preparing it for release. This step is critical because a poor fix can create new problems. Finally, we have release and post-release activities. The fix is deployed to users, and the organization monitors the system to ensure everything works correctly. Feedback is also collected to improve future processes. For example, if a vulnerability is reported in a system, the team must first confirm it, then create a patch, and finally release it safely without breaking other function. Let's now look at how the external and internal processes work together as one system. This slide shows the connection between both standard ISO 29 and ISO 30. You can think of ISO 29000 as the front door of the organization. It manages communication with the outside world. On the other hand, ISO 30000 is like the internal engine where the real work of fixing vulnerabilities happens. The process begins when a vulnerability report is received from an external source. The organization acknowledges the report and keeps the reporter informed. This step is very important because it builds trust and encourages responsibility disclosure. At the same time, the report moves into the internal process. The organization verifies whether the vulnerability is real. If the issue is not confirmed, feedback is sent back to the reporter. If it is confirmed, the process continues with developing a fix. Once the vulnerability is resolved, the organization publishes an advisory. This informs users about the issue and how to protect themselves. These steps connect back to the external side again. Shifting our perspective to a broader level, this slide shows how vulnerability management works across countries and organizations, not just inside one company. ENISA focuses on coordinated vulnerability disclosure at the policy level. The goal is to create a common approach across different countries, especially in Europe, so that vulnerability can be reported and handled safely and consistently. One important concept here is legal protection. This means that ethical hackers who report vulnerability in good faith are protected by law. Without this protection, many researchers might be afraid to report issues, which would increase security risk. Another key element is the role of coordinators. National CRIST or CERT can act as neutral parties. They help manage communication, especially in complex cases where multiple organizations are affected or when a vendor does not respond. The slide also highlights ecosystem incentives. This includes programs like bug bounties, where researchers are rewarded for finding vulnerabilities. This encourages active participation from the global security community. The map illustrated how different actors are connected across countries. Vulnerability management is not local. It is a global effort that requires cooperation between governments, companies, and researchers. Now we will focus on the final and most critical steps in vulnerability management, which is patching. NIST, the standard, introduces an important mindset shift. Patching should not be seen as a burden or an extra task. Instead, it's a normal and necessary part of maintaining secure systems, just like regular maintenance in any businesses. The slide shows the concept of the exploit windows. This is the time between when a vulnerability becomes known and when it is fixed. The longer this window is, the higher the risk of attack. In manual processes, this window is often very wide because patching takes time and depends on human actions. However, with automation, these windows can be significantly reduced. Automated patching system can quickly detect, test, and apply updates. Another key idea is simplification and automation. It's not realistic to manually assess every vulnerability. Organization needs automated tools to manage large volumes of risk efficiency. The concept of maintenance groups is also important. Systems should be grouped based on risk, and different response strategies should be applied. For example, critical system may require immediate patching, while other can follow a regular schedule. To bring everything together, this slide shows how all the standards and practices connect across the full lifecycle of a system. We can clearly see three main phases. The first is the creation phase. Here, the goal is to prevent vulnerabilities before the product is realized. NIST security by design plays a key role by ensuring secure architecture and default settings. At the same time, OWASP to help developers check their code and external components for risk early in development. Then we move to the discovery phase. This is where vulnerabilities are identified and reported. ISO 29000 supports safe communication between external researchers and organizations. In more complex situation, ENISA's coordinated disclosure adds another layer where national coordination helps manage communication across multiple parties. Finally, we reach the operation phase. This is where vulnerabilities are fixed and systems are updated. ISO 30001 guides the internal handling and resolution processes, while NIST standard ensures that patches are applied efficiently in real environments. This lifecycle view helps organization understand that effective vulnerability management requires coordination across all stages, not just one part of the process. Look at this slide. We shift from processes to people and roles. Here, the focus on who is responsible for each part of vulnerability management and what they deliver. Different frameworks involve different actors, and each of them has a clear role. For example, OWASP dependency check is mainly used by developers. Their goal is to produce clean and secure code, as well as maintain a clear view of software components, often through something like SBOM. This directly supports supply chain security. Next, we have software vendors who works with ISO 30001 and ENISA security by design. Their responsibility is to create secure products and deliver reliable patches. Their main objective is to ensure product integrity. Then we see coordinators and researchers connected to ISO 29000 and ENISA CVD. These actors focus on vulnerability disclosure. They help create transparency by sharing information and following clear reporting policies. Finally, enterprise IT and security teams use standard NIST. Their role is to apply patches and maintain system. Their main goal is to operate operational defense, keeping system secure in real environment. This matrix shows that vulnerability management is a shared responsibility. No single team can do everything alone. Imagine that vulnerability management is not just a set of rules, but a clear path that every organization can follow. This slide presents a practical step-by-step approach that combines all the frameworks into one unified process. It begins with procurement. Before even using software, organizations should require vendors to follow security principles like ENISA security by design and to check dependencies using OWASP tools. This ensures that security starts before the product is introduced. The next step is preparation. Here, the organization builds its internal structure. This includes creating a vulnerability disclosure policy based on ISO 29000 and setting up internal processes for handling vulnerabilities according to ISO 30000. Then we move to execution. At this stage, organizations actively manage vulnerabilities in their systems. Using NIST's guidance, they automate patching and ensure that updates are applied quickly and efficiently. Finally, there is escalation. Some vulnerabilities are more complex and affect multiple organizations or even countries. In such cases, ENISA coordinated disclosure helps involve national authorities to manage the situation properly. These paths show how everything connects into one practical workflow. As we come to the end of this lecture session, This slide summarizes the key messages. Vulnerability management is not about one tool or one standard. It's about building a complete and balanced security approach. The first idea is to shift both left and right. This means we must think about security at the very beginning during design and development, but also continue to manage it during operation. Security does not stop after release. It is a continuous process. The second idea is that communication is security. Clear and structured communication supported by standards like ISO 29000 and coordinated disclosure practices helps organizations respond faster and more efficiently. It also builds trust with researchers and users. The third idea focuses on automation and policy. Without automation, it's very difficult to manage vulnerabilities at scale. At the same time, or without clear policies, even good process can fail. Both elements must work together. When we combine these three ideas, we create a strong and resilient security posture. Organization can prevent many issues early, respond quickly when problems appear, and maintain secure system over time. In simple terms, effective vulnerability management means thinking ahead, working together, and using the right tools and processes in every phase on the life cycle. Next workshop. Before we close today's session, let me briefly introduce our next and final workshop on the OSCRAT program, which will focus on the risk management. This workshop will take place on the 27th of April 2026 online in Zoom, and it designed as the natural continuation of what we discussed today. If vulnerability handling answers the question what is wrong, then risk management answers the question what matters most. Risk management is not just another topic. It's the foundation of cybersecurity. Every decision we make, every control we implement, and every vulnerability we prioritize is based on risk. Without a structured approach to risk, security becomes reactive and ineffective. In this workshop, we will go through the full life cycle of risk management in a practical and structured way. We will look at how to identify and assess risk using likelihood and impact, how to take clear and justify decisions such as accepting, reducing, avoiding, or transferring risk, and how to maintain a risk register that is linked to a real task and supporting evidence. A key focus will also be on traceability and auditability. It's not enough to take decision. Organization must be able to prove why a decision was made, how it was implemented, and how it is monitored over time. What is especially important is that this workshop will be delivered by a lecturer with strong practical experience. Both I and the other speakers have extensive background in the risk management, auditing, and working with international standards. This allows us to go beyond theory and share real-world practices and challenges. Thank you very much for your time and participation today. I hope this workshop give you not only useful knowledge, but also a clear and more practical view on how vulnerability handling works in real environment.
Thank you, Miro. Great way to end with notes on what comes next, our final fourth workshop from the series. But as we have literally 2 minutes until the end of today's session, I would like to mention also just a few announcements related to what comes next in the broader CRA ecosystem. Therefore, I'm using the opportunity to share my screen, and I think you would be able to see it right now. So next time we might be joining, maybe having also co-lecturers from 𝗪𝗪𝗀𝗃, our Romanian partners who expressed interest to share insights from their point of view in terms of compliance and how OSCRAT is helping compliance. But this would be something like a small guest lecture. So keep in mind, we will have not only the guest lecture that Miroslav mentioned, but also potentially such guest lecture from Romania. Also, until April 27th, make sure to follow our LinkedIn webpage, because here we have updates on a daily basis. If for some reason you have not registered for our upcoming webinar on April 27th, you can find in any of the previously posted announcements the same registration URL. What you're going to be able to see is simply the final option, April 27th. So you can copy the registration URL and send to everyone that might be interested beyond your organization, as I suppose you have already signed up. Next, as I mentioned, we have the CRA cluster, which we are proud member of. And you can see at the CRA cluster webpage at cyberstand.eu that the partners from within this cluster are touring across Europe. Last time I invited you to join us in Turin, in Italy. Since then, we also had days ago a workshop, on-site workshop in Barcelona, and there are 3 more scheduled, one in Paris on the same day as our webinar will take place on April 27th, but also one in Stockholm on May 4th, and a third one on May 21st scheduled for Malta. Some of them might have hybrid attendance opportunities, some don't, so just make sure to check the different events. If you are coming from countries where we're going to be on the ground, definitely come and say hi. If you can join us online, try. I mean, seek for, because the details are not necessarily set up as of today. And also there will be 3 more workshops on the agenda. They have not been yet announced, but we expect them to be announced very soon. One in Romania and 2 others in different countries across Europe. Then another announcement I would like to make. We advise you to also basically keep in touch with this initiative called European Cluster for Cybersecurity Certification, as I have not yet shared the link towards this particular initiative. I will do so in the chat, but you can see it's cybersecuritycluster.eu. We are part of this cluster together with other organizations working on developing cybersecurity certification across the continent. You can see most of these projects, different to us, have been financed under the Horizon Europe initiative, and they're targeting areas such as certification of broad ICT products, components. Some of them, like telemetry, are focusing on standards in the field of IoT software, hardware, and ecosystems. I mean, not necessarily standard development, but development of innovative approaches to targeting certification against such standards. We have also confirmed from our CRA cluster that I spoke of. So keep in mind to just bookmark this website and see what the rest of the colleagues are doing. Keep in mind to also in the repository with our materials, not only to check the video recording URLs or the presentations from the events. You'll see a new subfolder over here later today, but also check the useful resources on a regular basis, because even today, as we were speaking, I uploaded a new very useful resource related to the composition approach for compliance against CRA. I'm part of the working group as a part of the Digital Innovation Hub Trakia, which is part of the the Union for Private Economic Enterprise in Bulgaria. We're members of the European Cybersecurity Organization, so you will see some materials coming from EXO directly. This one is even an early release. We're still voting on this final draft related to basically providing ideas for companies to reuse artifacts, basically so-called composition acts, as a mechanism to provide evidences, to reuse evidences in the journey for achieving compliance with the CRA. Very nice approach of this document. It goes from planning to production design to product development to product release and maintenance responsibilities, and how you can reuse different artifacts from this general journey in order to prove compliance on every stage of development and maintenance of your product with digital component or product with digital element. So this is a useful resource coming from EXO. EXO is actively monitoring the CRA implementation. It doesn't matter if you're going to look for fresh resources from our repo or from the EXO website itself. Just make sure to check on a regular basis. And finally, but not like in any other way less relevant, this is the website, which also I will be sharing in the chat window. But for those of you who are watching the recording, this is the website, dedicated website of the European Commission on the CRA implementation, where you can find more information for you as manufacturers or distributors or importers of products with digital elements. Or if you're representing an organization within a member state that is somehow related to supporting SMEs or to in any other way disseminating the information, you have dedicated subsections. You have the most recent announcements around the implementing acts under the CRA and the standards in the different areas. If you remember the pyramid that you saw on a number of slides throughout our workshops. So here you can find the most up-to-date and official, to say the least, but also an updated progress chart. You can see, as Miroslav also mentioned, what is coming next in the next couple of months, in the next quarter or two. And I think that's about all for today. These were the resources I wanted to close the workshop with. Make sure to bookmark and check them on a regular basis. Until our next meeting, I would like to wish you success, and I would like to emphasize that we remain available. Find us from the contact section on OSCRAT.eu, or just find us personally. Miroslav, Yasen, and me, we're available through LinkedIn. We always respond to requests and we'll be happy to assist you further. I see something in the chat new. Please, can you repeat the name of the certification consortium? Yes, I can repeat, and I will share. Rosaria will share its URL here, also sharing the URL of the EU Commission CRA dedicated website, also sharing the event section from the CyberStant website, and anything else that I'm missing as something that is of importance to you. Just make sure to write me at hdaskalov 𝗪𝘂𝗹𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 at the following address, linkedin.com/in/Christian. We'll be happy to add value beyond these 2 hours that we spent together. I appreciate the time that you dedicated. I hope it has been worth it, and hope to see you on April 27th. In the meanwhile, we remain available. Thank you and have a nice afternoon, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.